Every prepper channel tells you the same thing. Pick the right state, move there, survive. Maybe you've already got Idaho picked out, or maybe you're not going anywhere. You've got a mortgage, a family, a life where you are, and every survival channel just told you you're screwed. Either way, let me ask one question. Which map did you use? Because there isn't one survival map. There are three. Nuclear strike, grid down, and slow collapse. Three completely different disasters. Three completely different geographies. The state that tops one list is a death trap on another. One list for all three is like prescribing the same pill for a broken leg and a heart attack. I built three separate maps using FEMA fallout models, NOAA climate data, CDC mortality stats, USGS water tables, and Department of Energy grid reports. They look nothing alike, but here's the part that should make you nervous. The people who actually have the best nuclear targeting data, the best fallout models, the best intelligence on every threat to this country, they all pick the same place. Not Idaho, not Texas, not Montana. They spent billions burying bunkers in one mountain range. Mount Weather in Virginia. The Greenbrier in West Virginia, an underground Congress hidden behind a fake wall for 30 years. Raven Rock in Pennsylvania, a hollowed-out mountain they call the underground Pentagon. All Appalachians. They picked it because the physics works, and they never told you. I'm Max, and today on Outfox Apocalypse, I'm going to show you 5 regions, not states, regions, where physics, biology, and thermodynamics say a human body survives longest without modern infrastructure. But more importantly, I'm going to teach you how to read any location like a survival equation: water, food, climate, energy, community. Whether you're moving or staying put, by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to score the ground you're standing on. No opinions, no gut feelings. Every number comes from a government database or a peer-reviewed study. But before we get to the maps, let me point out something that Hollywood has been getting wrong for 50 years, and that most prepper channels keep repeating. Think about every apocalypse movie you've ever seen. I Am Legend, Will Smith, alone in Manhattan, driving a Mustang through empty streets with a rifle and a dog. That's the fantasy. The lone survivor. The last man standing. Mad Max. One guy in a desert with a shotgun and a muscle car. Even the Book of Eli, Denzel walking cross-country solo with a machete. Hollywood loves the lone wolf. It's a great story. It's also a guaranteed death sentence. Now think about the movies and shows that actually get it closer to right. Red Dawn, 1984, not the remake. A group of kids who know each other, know their terrain, and work together to survive an invasion. That's community plus geography. Or Jericho, remember that show? Small Kansas town survives nuclear strikes on 23 American cities. It's fiction, but the writers actually consulted military analysts, and the survival mechanics are shockingly accurate. The town lives because people cooperate, trade skills, and share resources. Or The Last of Us, the most realistic survival show on television right now. Every functioning settlement in that world runs on the same principle: people who trust each other, in a location where the land provides. The lone wolves, they all die. Every single one. That's not a screenwriting choice, that's history. Yugoslavia, Argentina, Lebanon, the Soviet collapse. Sarajevo, 1,425 days under siege, snipers on every rooftop. The people who made it weren't the ones with the most ammo. They were the ones with neighbors who shared potatoes. Remember that, because it's going to come up again when we get to region number 3. Now, let's talk about why every safest states list you've ever seen is garbage. First problem, I already told you, one list for 3 disasters is a lie. But let me show you exactly how different these maps are. A nuclear strike has fallout patterns driven by prevailing westerly winds. Everything downwind of the missile silos in Montana, North Dakota, and Wyoming gets dusted. An EMP is about whether your region can generate its own power without fuel deliveries. Economic collapse is about food, water, and community. And suddenly, geography matters less than whether your neighbors will share a bag of rice or put a gun in your face. 3 completely different maps. The state that saves you from fallout might starve you in an economic collapse. Second problem, low population equals safe. Every list pushes you toward Wyoming, Montana, Idaho. Less than 6 people per square mile. Sounds great until you do basic math. Portland alone has 2.5 million people. Idaho has 1.9 million total. In a real collapse, density doesn't stay constant, it shifts like a flood. Every panicked suburbanite with a half tank of gas heads for the mountains. That nice empty stretch of Idaho becomes a refugee highway in 72 hours. And there's a deeper issue. Fewer people also means no hospitals, no manufacturing, no labor pool, no trade. Every real-world collapse proves the same thing. Medium-sized towns with diverse skills survive better than isolated homesteads. Every time. And here's what No Prepper Channel will tell you. Moving to the right state means nothing if you show up as a stranger. The data from every historical collapse is brutally clear. Outsiders die first. Not because they're weaker, because nobody trades with someone they met last month. Community isn't a place you move to. It's something you build where you are, and it takes years. Third problem, they confuse farming with food. Iowa and Nebraska produce enough calories to feed half the planet. Except it's feed corn and ethanol, you can't eat it. The USDA's own data shows that the top agricultural states rank poorly for actual food you can put in your mouth when the trucks stop coming. Turning an industrial corn operation into a survival garden takes 3 growing seasons minimum. If you know what you're doing, most people don't. Now, the 3 maps. Map 1, nuclear strike. And this is bigger than most people think. It's not just 450 ICBM silos in Montana, North Dakota, Wyoming, Nebraska, and Colorado. Think layers. First wave takes out military, the silos, the submarine bases on both coasts, bomber airfields, NORAD inside Cheyenne Mountain, Strategic Command in Omaha. Second wave hits critical infrastructure, nuclear power plants, oil refineries, the major LNG terminals, the biggest power substations, the dams that feed the grid. Third wave targets population and logistics, cities over 1 million people, major port complexes, the rail yards where freight converges, the interstate highway interchanges that keep the supply chain moving. When you stack all 3 layers on a map, most of the country lights up. Prevailing winds blow west to east, so fallout drifts east of every target. The safest positions are far from all 3 layers and west of the fallout corridors. Parts of the Appalachians, northern New England, pockets of the rural southeast. Map 2, grid down, EMP, solar storm, or cyber attack. In 1859, a solar storm called the Carrington event hit Earth so hard that telegraph wires caught fire, and operators got electrocuted. If that happened today, and NASA puts the odds at about 12% per decade, the entire electrical grid fries in 90 seconds. The physics here is simple. Can your region make its own power without fuel deliveries? Regions with hydroelectric dams win, waterfalls, turbines spin, no diesel required. Regions with forests win, a wood stove doesn't need a grid. Regions dependent on gas pipelines or isolated grids lose. An EPRI 3-year study found that a serious EMP event could take 4 to 10 years to fully recover from, because the custom transformers that run the grid take 2+ years to build, each, one at a time. Map 3, slow collapse, economic crash, pandemic, supply chain failure, or all 3 at once. No bombs, no EMPs, just the system stops delivering. Grocery stores carry 72 hours of stock. Panic buying empties them in 1 to 2 days. We all watched it happen during COVID, and that was a mild dress rehearsal. A real pandemic, or a currency collapse, or a diesel shortage that grounds the trucks, means the shelves stay empty. No resupply coming. This map is about growing your own food, collecting your own water, and having a community that holds together instead of tearing apart. You need rain, you need soil, you need enough warm days to grow a crop, and you need neighbors you can trust with your life. Because in this scenario, that's exactly what you're doing. 3 maps, 3 completely different geographies. Anyone who gives you one list for all 3 is selling you a bedtime story. Now I'm going to take these 3 maps and lay them over 5 regions. Every region gets scored on all 3, because a place that saves you from fallout but kills you in an economic collapse isn't a survival location, it's a coin flip. I'm using regions, not states, because state borders are political lines drawn by lawyers. They have nothing to do with watersheds, climate zones, or soil types. The state of Tennessee has 3 completely different survival profiles depending on which third you're standing in. Number 5. Inland Pacific Northwest, Eastern Oregon, Eastern Washington, the Idaho Panhandle. This region has one massive advantage: hydroelectric power. The Pacific Northwest holds a third of America's untapped hydro potential. Dams don't need diesel. They don't need coal. They don't need supply chains. Waterfalls, turbines spin, electricity happens. In an EMP scenario, this might be the only region in America where the lights stay on. But here's the problem nobody mentions. This is American Redoubt territory, the zone that every survivalist blog and every prepper channel has been pushing for 20 years. Which means in a real crisis, every prepared person west of the Rockies thinks they're heading east of the Cascades. Your mountain fortress becomes a refugee camp before the first snow falls. And there's a second problem sleeping under the ground. The Cascadia Fault, running from Northern California to British Columbia, is overdue for a magnitude 9 earthquake. FEMA calls it the worst natural disaster in American history when it finally hits. You're hiding from one apocalypse directly on top of another. Let's run it through the 3 maps. Nuclear, decent, you're far from most primary targets, but Fairchild Air Force Base sits right in this region, and fallout from Montana's silo fields drifts east into the Panhandle. Grid down, best in America. Hydro keeps the lights on when everything else goes dark. Slow collapse, weak, short growing season, thin soil, and that refugee math turns your fortress into a camp. 1 map out of 3 works in your favor. Score 6.4 out of 10. Great hydro, terrible math. Number 4. The Great Lakes, Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Lake Country. Water. That's the entire argument. The Great Lakes hold a fifth of the world's surface fresh water. Michigan alone has nearly 65,000 inland lakes. You will never, under any scenario, under any collapse, run out of water here. But cold is the killer nobody wants to talk about. A National Institutes of Health study tracked 2 decades of data and found that cold kills over 13 times more Americans than heat. 46,000 deaths from cold per year versus about 3,400 from heat. And the Midwest has the worst cold death rate in the country. Without heating, no gas, no grid, no fuel trucks. A winter here doesn't make you uncomfortable. It kills you, especially if you're over 65. Your body loses heat 25 times faster through the ground than through the air. And when the furnace dies, your house becomes a walk-in refrigerator in about 12 hours. 3 maps. Nuclear, solid, no major target clusters. Prevailing winds push fallout south of the lakes. You're in a clean zone. Grid down, dangerous. This region is grid dependent for heating. And without natural gas deliveries, that cold becomes a death sentence. Limited hydro compared to the Pacific Northwest. Slow collapse. Strong on water. Weak on growing season. 4 to 5 months of frost means 1 harvest, maybe. And you'd better know how to preserve everything you grow. 2 maps work, 1 kills you. Score 6.5 out of 10. The best water on Earth, taxed by winters that will stop your heart. So far, we've covered 2 regions, the hydro fortress of the Pacific Northwest and the freshwater empire of the Great Lakes. Both have massive strengths and fatal flaws. Now let me show you the 3 regions where the physics actually works in your favor, where water, food, climate, and energy line up at the same time. Number 3. The Northern Ozarks, Northwest Arkansas, Southern Missouri, the Upper Arkansas Valley. This region doesn't show up on anyone's list, and that might be its greatest asset. Remember what I said about Hollywood's lone wolf fantasy? The Ozarks are the opposite of that. This region hits what I call the golden ratio of population, 10 to 40 people per square mile. Below 10, you don't have enough hands to build anything, trade anything, or defend anything. Above 40, you get the chaos of a city without any city infrastructure. The Ozarks sit right in the sweet spot, enough people for a real community. Few enough that everyone knows everyone. Scientists who study group behavior put the trust limit at about 150 people. Beyond that, cooperation breaks down. The Ozarks were designed by geography for exactly that scale. The water here is spring-fed. It comes out of the rock, flows downhill, no pump needed. About 4 feet of rain per year. The growing season runs 7 to 8 months, long enough for 2 harvests if you plan your crops right. And the firewood is some of the best on the continent. The hardwood forests here burn hot and long. 1 cord of Ozark oak heats a house through winter. You'd need nearly 3 cords of the soft pine and cedar they have out west to do the same job. That's the difference between cutting wood for a weekend and cutting wood for a month. And the social fabric. I don't usually talk about this because it's hard to put a number on it, but the data supports it. Government studies on social capital, the fancy term for, do your neighbors actually help each other? Consistently rank these tight-knit rural communities at the top for disaster recovery and mutual aid. Remember the Cajun Navy during Hurricane Harvey? No government told them to go. No agency coordinated them. Just neighbors with boats who drove hundreds of miles, because that's what you do. The Ozarks have that culture baked in going back generations. 3 maps. Nuclear, good. No primary targets in the region. Prevailing winds carry fallout corridors north and east. You're in a gap. But there's a reactor near Russellville, Arkansas, and the New Madrid fault sits close enough to matter. Grid down, solid, abundant firewood means heating without a grid, and the spring-fed water doesn't need electricity to reach you. No hydro, but you don't need it when the land does the work. Slow collapse, this is where the Ozarks shine. Long growing season, reliable rain, and a community fabric that's been holding together through hard times for 200 years. 2.5 maps work. Score 7.3 out of 10. Best community, best population balance, invisible to every prepper channel in existence. If this is the kind of analysis that keeps you thinking clearly, if you'd rather have data than drama, subscribe to this channel. I don't sell fear, I sell physics. Every video here is built the same way. Government sources, real studies, and 0 opinions. Number 2. The Southeast Coastal Plain, Northern Florida, the Georgia Piedmont, the South Carolina, and North Carolina Lowcountry. Here's a number that should change everything you think about hot climates. Arizona kills 52 times more people from heat than Florida. CDC numbers, 2021. Both are hot states. But Florida has humidity and ocean. The air holds water. The breeze off the coast cools you down in a way that dry desert heat simply cannot. Arizona is a convection oven. It bakes you from the outside in. Florida is a steam room, uncomfortable, but you survive it. The oven kills. The steam room just makes you sweat. But food is where this region gets extraordinary. Up to 300 frost-free days a year. 2 full harvests, sometimes 3. The highest wild game density in the country, Texas alone has 5.5 million deer. And the king of all survival crops, the sweet potato. 1 acre of sweet potatoes produces enough calories to feed one person for 5 to 8 years. No modern equipment needed, no fertilizer, no irrigation system, just dirt and sun. Before Europeans arrived, the Southeast supported more people per square mile than anywhere else east of the Rockies. Not because the people were smarter, because the land was better. The physics of warm sun plus 50 inches of rain per year plus deep fertile soil equals the maximum number of humans the land can carry. And the water. This is the part that blows my mind. The Floridan aquifer has natural springs that push water 40 feet above ground level. No pump, no electricity, no technology whatsoever. The water literally rises out of the earth and hands itself to you. 824 documented springs in the Florida system alone. Now compare that to the Ogallala Aquifer under the Great Plains. 1/5 of all American crops depend on it. It sits 100 to 400 feet underground. It needs electric pumps. And if you drained it today, it would take 6,000 years to refill. The Floridan gives you water for free. The Ogallala is a ticking clock wired to the power grid. The fatal flaw, hurricanes. Florida has been hit by over 100 since records began. That's not a risk, it's a guarantee. 3 maps. Nuclear, mixed. You're far from silo fields, and most fallout corridors stay north. But the Southeast has submarine bases. Kings Bay in Georgia. And several nuclear power plants that become problems without maintenance crews. Grid down, survivable. No heating crisis like the Great Lakes. And the Floridan aquifer doesn't need electricity. But without air conditioning, the heat stress on elderly and sick is real. You need shade, water, and common sense. Slow collapse, the best in America, 300 frost-free days, the richest aquifer on the continent, and enough wild game to feed a county. This is the map where the Southeast dominates. 2.5 maps work, with caveats. Score 7.5 out of 10. Best food production, best warm weather water, but Mother Nature knocks on the door every single year. Number 1, Southern Appalachia, West Virginia, Kentucky, Western North Carolina, Upstate South Carolina, North Georgia, East Tennessee. This is the only region in the United States that ranks in the top 3 for every single survival parameter. Not top 5, top 3, across the board. Nothing else in the country does that. Water. 400,000 miles of streams and creeks. The highest density of flowing water anywhere in America. Springs everywhere. Gravity-fed. Already running downhill toward you. Up to 65 inches of rain per year. No well needed. No pump needed. The water just shows up. Food. 7 to 8 months without frost. Deer, turkey, squirrel, rabbit. Fish in every creek. Over 250 species of wild plants you can eat. Rich valley soil that's been growing food for thousands of years. Pecans and hickory nuts pack more calories per pound than almost any food on Earth. Energy, and here's where it gets special. This region has the best firewood in North America. The hardwood here, oak, hickory, black locust, burns hot enough to heat a stone house through January. But it doesn't stop at wood. There are coal seams sitting at the surface that you can dig out with a garden shovel. Natural gas seeps that have been burning since before the country existed. George Washington personally visited one called Burning Springs in West Virginia in 1775. Thomas Jefferson wrote about it. 250 years of free fuel coming out of the ground with zero technology. And on top of that, building stone everywhere, iron ore deposits, and flint. Flint Ridge in Ohio was the tool-making capital of North America for thousands of years. Stone Age people traveled hundreds of miles to get it. Everything you'd need to build a civilization from scratch, fuel, metal, tools, shelter material, is sitting on the surface in this region waiting to be picked up. Climate, moderate. The mountains break up tornadoes. They lose power crossing ridgelines. Hurricanes don't penetrate this far inland. Winters are real but survivable, especially when you're sitting on top of the best heating fuel on the continent. 3 maps. Nuclear, the best. No silo fields. No major military clusters. Prevailing winds push fallout corridors away. And the government already proved it. Mount Weather, the Greenbrier, Raven Rock, all here. They didn't guess. They ran the models. Grid down, excellent. The best firewood in North America. Surface coal, natural gas seeps, gravity-fed water. This region runs without a grid like it was designed for it, because for 12,000 years it was. Slow collapse, the best 7-month growing season, 250 edible wild plants, game in every hollow, and communities that have been self-sufficient since before the interstate highway existed. 3 maps, 3 wins. No other region in the country does that. And remember those bunkers from the start? When the people with the best data in the world needed a place to survive the worst-case scenario, they didn't go to Idaho. They didn't go to Montana. They came here. Because the physics works. It worked 12,000 years ago. And it works today. Score 8.3 out of 10. The best balance of every factor that keeps a human alive. Bottom line. 3 things. 1. There are 3 maps, not 1. Nuclear, grid down, and slow collapse produce 3 completely different survival geographies. Anyone handing you one list for all 3 is selling comfort, not analysis. 2. The physics of survival comes down to 4 inputs: water, food, climate, and energy. In that order. If your location can't deliver all 4 without a functioning power grid, you're standing in the wrong place. 3. Community is a survival resource. The lone wolf dies in every real collapse. Red Dawn got it right in 1984. It's never one guy with a gun. It's a group of people who know the land and trust each other. Appalachia, the Ozarks, and the rural Southeast share that generations of people who've been feeding themselves and helping their neighbors long before any of us started thinking about this. 4. Knowing your land is worth more than being on the right land. The person who understands their local water table, their soil, their wind patterns, and their neighbors' skills has a better shot than someone who moved to the #1 region last Tuesday and doesn't know which creek runs where. These 5 regions aren't a moving checklist. They're a framework. Water, food, climate, energy, community. Score your own ground. Because the best survival tool isn't a location. It's understanding the physics of wherever you already are. 5 regions, 3 maps. 0 opinions, just physics. Always check with your local emergency management agency for specific risks and protocols in your area. Conditions change, rules change. And most importantly, take care of yourself and take care of your people. Stay safe. Max out.